The organization of WIDA began in 2002 through an enhancement assessment grant awarded to the state of Wisconsin. It initially included Wisconsin, WI, Arkansas, A, and Delaware, D, thus the acronym WIDA, WIDA. Early on, Arkansas withdrew, and the acronym became known as the World Class Instructional Design and Assessment, still WIDA. More recently, the consortium, which consists of over 35 states, refers to itself as simply WIDA. The mission is to support the academic language development and achievement of English learners through its research, standards framework, and assessments. This being said, I would like to introduce my colleague, Bea Palls from Florida. Together, we have designed an interactive and informative workshop to guide pre-K through 12 teachers in understanding WIDA. Welcome, Bea, to the ESOL video series. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. I'm Jane Govoni, the co-founder of ESOL in Higher Ed, former professor at the university level training pre-service teachers in the field of ESOL.
I'm Bea Palls, and I have been supervisor of curriculum and instruction, ESOL foreign languages and foreign student studies. Became an international consultant in education and have worked with the ESOL program, actually from California to New York and from Central America, and a little bit of keynote speaking in South America.
And now our passion is training teachers on the WIDA standards and framework.
Right, how exciting it is that Florida has become part of the WIDA consortium.
Yes, full boat we are now, right? As of July 2015.
Yeah, I believe the assessments are going to be in the spring of 2016.
So it should be exciting, and yet at the same time I think challenging for teachers as well, as they learn a little more in regards to ways to work with English learners.
They've always seemed to have an issue when it comes to having students who speak no English at all in the classroom to those that are pretty proficient in English, and having to meet their state standards for content areas and yet be able to say, has the non-English speaker met my objectives, and how can I do that without using language to find out where they stand. So I think this WIDA training that we've developed is one that's going to be very beneficial for teachers.
And we already know it, right? Our first training was a success. It was
fabulous.
Terrific.
Fabulous.
The feedback that we got in regards to ways for teachers to assess their students, and in particular English learners.
Right.
They seem to be more confident, more comfortable after our training.
Absolutely. The comments that we not only received in writing, but you remember when we had them involved in many of the different aspects of WIDA, their comments and their surprise that this was not overwhelming, and when they were able to put it into the boxes where it needed to be for what's expected of the students, the lights went on. It was, this is okay, we can do this.
WIDA has only 5 standards. I think it puts teachers more at ease in understanding that there are only 5.
Right, wasn't it exciting when we were talking about the language of language arts and the language of mathematics, when they were able to come up with their own name of the standard, and they said this all flows completely together when we're taking our content and just putting it into the language of the content area for our English language learners. It was great.
It was great, yes, because then it became their own. I own this now, I can do this. Looking at the orange and looking at it, just describing an orange, and then asking participants to describe an orange as a mathematician, or as a scientist, or as a poet.
And in social studies, and it was wonderful. And the things they were coming up with, what was amazing also is for the first time, other than content with the orange, they were realizing how much of the vocabulary was even difficult in a social context for our English language learners. And that light that went on for the students, for the participants in the training was amazing.
And that's a major aspect of the whole WIDA framework, and looking at the content area versus academic language here.
Right.
And being able to differentiate, well, I guess more assess, right? Assess the students.
Again, without determining language to be a barrier for them to show what they can do at each one of the levels, so they can show what they know if they're assessed at the level of their language proficiency. And even though that rhetoric has been around forever, and we both have done a lot of training with ESOL and strategies and best practices.
Right.
But I think with this particular training that we did, it came alive for them. It was, oh, yes, we are assessing at their level of language proficiency. And of course, the questions that we were able to answer and address about, well, if someone can do X at a bridging level, and they can only do pictorial representations of series and sequences at the entering, then why should they both get the same grade? Right. And without telling them, which is really why I liked our training so much, because we don't tell them. It's exploratory for them. And without us telling them, they were able to come up with, well, they've met the content standard even when I have changed the pieces around.
Absolutely. And when that light bulb came on, that was the magic of our training in regards to being able to understand from the teacher perspective that yes, I am actually assessing each and every student based on their knowledge of the content.
Exactly.
And that is the key to everyone's success.
It is, and I think that's what makes our training so different. It is one of being practical, being meaningful, being interactive, while the teachers are having fun at the same time.
Yes.
And when they bring it back, for example, when they left our training, they all left with a product. It's something that they truly understand, presented in a way the teachers need to have it presented for the classroom, for their students, for themselves, and not saying that this is a whole lot of extra work for them, because all of their students are going to fall along that continuum of proficiency.
Absolutely, and we heard that from quite a few of the participants. Not only is this valuable for my English learners, all of my students can benefit from the WIDA approach and the WIDA mission.
Yeah. I thought one of the comments that we had from our last training, when a few of the teachers had come up and said, this training needs to be for all teachers, because we're not addressing the needs of our English language speakers at their level of language proficiency either. So that comment alone for them to take back to their schools is, we know that it was a successful
Powerful,
day.
just very powerful. Yes, because it is so engaging, so meaningful. And we looked at the levels of proficiency, and typically in Florida and many other states, we've looked at either beginning, advanced, intermediate levels, or we've looked at Krashen and Terrell's approach to the 4 levels, and now presenting 5 levels to teachers.
Didn't you find that one of the most rewarding aspects of this training that we've done is how the teachers were actually able to bring WIDA to life as they recognized how language development affects the academic performance of the student in the classrooms?
Absolutely, and I think it was through our activities that they were actually able to bring this to life. When we looked at the proficiency levels, the WIDA proficiency levels, from entering, emerging, developing, expanding, to bridging. And we looked at the 5 levels and talked about the proficiency for the students at these levels and the objective of each lesson. And it really just seemed to come together for them.
I think also by providing them with a template that we were able to give them an example of how this would be done in a classroom, for example, on force, which is what we did from K through 12 in science.
Yes.
And the teacher who had said, well, I don't know how I could do this, to do multiple meaning words from, entering up to bridging. And as she did it, how the lights came on and how she just kept going, and then her remark of saying, we need more time to do more. We want to do more.
They came up with it themselves. We kind of pointed them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then they designed it, and they developed these lessons based on the 5 proficiency levels.
Yeah, and the ideas that were passed about even following it up to develop a rubric from the 5 levels for grading and assessment on a report card, so that they can actually have the students show what they know, get credit for what they know, without keeping the language barrier from reaching academic success.
It's a meaningful, purposeful, and truly engaging training.
And fun.
And there will be many opportunities for us in the future in regards to training teachers on the WIDA approach, the frameworks, the standards. It's exciting.
It is.
In sum, our engaging and informative workshop inspires an awareness and a level of confidence in understanding ways to assess English learners in specific content areas and in their individual language proficiency levels. Our participants have shared that they walked away with the tools, knowledge, and confidence to build lessons and assessments around the specific needs of English learners based on individual language proficiency and academic knowledge. Our training is practical, purposeful, and pleasurable, a hands-on experience that every teacher will want to have.